Okay, today we are presenting leveraging technology to drive successful life science M&As in the COVID-19 era and beyond. We are here with Jennifer Stango and Jens Christensen, both Director of Strategic Engagement, as well as Jeb Schreffler, Pre-Sales Engineer here at Arbella Technologies. So without further ado, let's get started. Jennifer, you have the floor.
Great, thank you. So just a high level of what our agenda will be today. We'll go over some introductions. We'll talk a little bit about Arbella. We'll discuss the mergers and acquisitions activity. We'll do an overview of the Microsoft solutions. We'll do a demo of D365. We'll also talk a little bit about our Arbella Health solution, and then we'll leave some time for question and answer. So I'm Jennifer Stango. As they said, I'm the Director of Strategic Engagements. I specialize in healthcare and life sciences. I've been doing Microsoft Dynamics for about 20 years. I was fortunate enough to have one of my customers get me GXP certified, so I'm also very familiar with FDA validations. In addition, I'm a former CFO and Director of IT, so I also have the accounting background. Jens?
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. My name is Jens Christensen, also working in the same group as Jennifer as a director. I've been in the business in the dynamic space for the past 14 years, and been with Arbella for the past 3, and been working around building up a lot of the work around the healthcare and life science areas as well. I have a little bit of different background, and Jennifer more on the operations side, and been working in the logistics and the supply chain for the most of my time here at with dynamic space. Jeff, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Schreffler. I'm a pre-sales engineer here at Arbella, and I've been working with the Microsoft solution for a little over 20 years, and now primarily work in our health and life sciences practice here at Arbella. Jen?
All right, so I'll take it on here. So if you go to the next one here, that's okay. And just so we if you could go to the next slide here. So just a little bit about Arbella, so you know who you're actually listening to. For those who don't know, Arbella is a Microsoft partner across multiple different areas, specifically in the mostly in the dynamic space, but also in more of the business applications as well. We are about almost 200 people across the globe. The majority of the people are here in the U.S. and in Canada as well, but we also have representation in Europe and in the Ukraine as well. We've been in the business for about almost 20 years now, and as the company, and are priding ourselves with being very diverse. We have many different nationalities and different languages as well being spoken in the company here. We're focusing on more on the industry areas of health, manufacturing, distribution, and then we have a lot of expertise in other areas within media and entertainment, retail, and engineering and energy as well. So a lot of different expertises, but we're focusing very much on the manufacturing and the health these days as well. So if you look at the below, you see a little bit about the areas where we have our expertise in. It covers the entire stack from Microsoft, but I'll get back to that in a little bit here. So Jeff, if you can go to the next slide. And just another visual representation to show where our global experience and footprint. We've done implementation throughout the world. We're located throughout the world, as I said before. We've done implementation in every continent except for the Antarctica, of course, where we've done implementation either by ourselves or with a good partnership, as we have a really great partner network, so we can cover the entire globe for implementation as well. So a little bit about Arbella, why our customers usually choose to work with Arbella, and one of the main things that we pride ourselves with is trust and integrity. We are very client focused and want to build a long-term relationship with our clients, and what you'll see is that we have a very personal engagement with the clients when we get started, and we have Arbella people connected to the client for the entire lifespan of our engagement with the client, and hopefully that will be many years. You know, we are using a lot of industry experience, used a lot of industry practices from APQC, which is the which is a well-defined quality standard to follow our processes for our implementation, making sure that we get everything covered. And then you know, we want to be that strategic partner of yours. So going back to that, we can serve the entire Microsoft stack. We're looking at not only the immediate needs, but also on the long-term roadmap, and we're looking more than just one or two applications. We're looking at the global, you know, the all-time roadmap. What are the objectives and goals from the company, and then we will apply the technology after that. I'm saying we're a big team, we're a global team, but we are still very, because of our culture, we're really agile, and we have a lot of freedom to be flexible, so we can adjust a lot of ways to work with the clients. So although we have a lot of defined set processes and everything, we're also have the ability to be a little bit more nimble and be flexible to make sure we work with the client and in the best and most optimal way as well. Go ahead. I think that's for you, Jen.
Thanks, Jens. So we're going to talk a little bit about mergers and acquisitions in life sciences. So as you can see, life sciences companies are pretty much immune to the economic impacts of pandemics like COVID-19. They basically produce life-saving treatments that we need. So of course, they still grow in this type of economy, but they're definitely not immune to acquisitions and mergers. 2020 was still a record high as compared to the other industries, as you can see on the slide, but still has not reached the level of M&A activity that we saw in 2019, which topped about 240 billion. So what we see for M&A projections in life sciences for 2021, so life sciences companies are going to need to collaborate to meet the growing demands of the market. 58% of life sciences executives polled plan to pursue M&A activity in the next 12 months. Those competing companies are having to work together to solve the issues with the pandemic, not of today, but also of the future. So a lot of those collaborations are leading to mergers and acquisitions. So that's about 58% said they're going to do that. So now out of that 58%, 75% of those mergers and acquisition activities are basically going to be bolt-on acquisitions or deal-making capabilities. When we say that, they're really looking to enhance their therapeutic and gene focus areas. That market is continuing to grow, and we're seeing more and more mergers and acquisitions in that area. We're also seeing that the government and private equity firms are coming in and investing in the companies. That's giving them more cash reserves than they've historically had. So M&A that they could not afford to do, they now can because of the cash that's come in. But what we saw in 2020 is due to COVID and the pandemic is that a lot of that is remote work. And so since they can't do a lot of remote work, that they were unable to do those acquisitions. In the beginning of 2021, probably the first quarter, we're going to see a lot of that M&A being removed because of tools like Microsoft Teams, which is allowing for remote collaboration. So we're seeing M&A drivers in 2020. I know we're in December, but what we'll probably see in Q1 and throughout 2021 is a lot of asset swaps going on. We talked about people needing therapeutic and gene therapies. That's where they're trying to negotiate the assets with each other. So instead of building it themselves, they're doing asset swaps. We're also seeing bolt-ons. The reason we're seeing a lot of bolt-ons is it's allowing people to go into additional regions or introduce something that they historically have not been able to do. We talked about this before, but we're seeing a lot of private equity come into the market. They're infusing those companies with cash, and it's allowing them to buy other businesses, or the private equity is buying them because things like portable ventilators, new types of nebulizers, even new therapeutic drugs are getting entered into the market. And of course, that's where they see the money coming from. We're also seeing a ton of geographic expansion, not just in the US, but we're also seeing it into the global region. If you want to go to the next slide, Jeff. So if you're looking at doing M&A for your business or you're ready in M&A, these are probably questions you should be asking yourself. Does your current business model enable you to enter those new markets? Is that new market a product for you? Is it a service or is it country? As you're thinking about entering into those new markets, does your business model not only enable you to expand, but are you going to be able to maintain your existing customer base? If not, what sort of business model should you be looking at, or what do you need? If you are going through M&A activities now, how are you handling those? What's been successful? What hasn't been successful? What could you enhance? What tools are you using to maximize your revenue and profitability? We all know that the introduction of a new life sciences technology, whether it's a drug or a medical device, can take up to years. What are you looking at to make sure that that drug or medical device is going to be profitable for you, which is also going to allow you to divest of that business unit or of your business? When you're thinking about revenue and profitability, what forecasting methods do you have? When we think about going international or even entering into a new market, we think about looking at other products or other regions that may perform the same. So can we use that data to forecast how we're going to perform? Do you have any analytics, and do you have access to the data that you need for this business growth and strategy? There's so many people that we're talking to that have siloed and broken systems that they can't actually access that data to get the analytics. How is that impacting your ability to go to market? Also, when we talk about that analytic and data, is do you actually have the people that can help you mine that data, can do the analytics, because that's getting more and more important in the market. We're seeing a lot of hiring trends in that specific area. And then with all of these siloed, broken systems, is how are you ensuring your regulatory compliance? Not only from an FDA, I mean, that's all important in life sciences, but also from a SOX compliance if you're thinking about going public. You have to make sure that those systems are meeting those standards. And as we're talking through integrations, is are we actually validating those integrations to make sure that the data that we're getting is correct? And then the last big thing that we're really seeing in the market given COVID is digital sales enablement. When we think about that, it could be just from like leveraging Microsoft Teams to have that face-to-face meeting with a new doctor, a new hospital, a new health system. But it also could be doing something like field service. When we think about a machine being broken, if it's an X-ray machine or a mammogram, we're used to flying techs out there and having them look at it. But conceptually, you could use something like a HoloLens. And the HoloLens will allow you to see what they're seeing. It will allow you to help replicate it. We can also use that same concept of a Microsoft HoloLens to actually train someone on the new technologies that are coming out. So instead of sending like one of your reps out that's going to train on how to administer or how to do the new mammogram, what would happen is you would send the equipment out, or they could go through virtual training that you would publish. We could have a HoloLens shipped to them. Your tech could walk them through it in your own office. Once we're sure they're certified, we actually send the machine out. So digital sales capability, I think, is going to be the biggest trend we see in 2021, and which has been impacted by the pandemic. So Jeff, if you want to move on to the next slide, and I'm going to turn it back to Jens.
Thanks, Jen. So if you go to the next slide, so Jen just mentioned a lot of some of the questions about getting your dispersed, you know, how you work with separate systems and everything. And this is from a more of technical where the Microsoft ecosystem comes in and provides a great play here. So what you see on the screen here is a diagram on a lot of different applications that are currently comes out of Microsoft ecosystem. And what we want to show here is how they all play together. So if we look on the left side, you see the productivity tools that most of you are familiar, where you would be familiar with most of them, like the Outlooks, like Teams maybe, or SharePoint as well. This is the day-to-day working tools that a lot of people are using, and then you have your business applications where you can create your your layout, your guides. You can build your transactional data, if you will. The field service that Jennifer was referring to before, how you handle your finances and everything. But how does that tie into productivity? Is that by having this uniform ecosystem, you can actually embed the data into to the productivity tools to display the data that is relative to that. So, for example, back to from a digital selling standpoint. You know, when you get in and if you get any input from a customer in your email, if you get an email from a customer, you can have it tied together to your customer service, to your sales insight, and have that data represented with the email, so you can see on the spot when you're looking at the email, hey, this is so and so, this is what we know about the customer, and so on and so forth as well. All of that can also be tied into more of the Azure and data and analytics. Back again to the field service example that Jennifer was talking about, using the cognitive services and machine learning to get the data from the machine, from the mammographs and everything like that, to build data to show from an analytical space, but also using the data to predict predictability, if you will. So how do we make sure, how do we predict the maintenance? How do we predict what needs to be happening and everything? We can use these tools as well. And then we have our third-party apps and the Power Platforms. So the third-party apps, you know, like, you know, from your phones, you can have you have an app store where you can go and you can procure other third-party applications that are specified in for a specific area that you can bolt onto any types of these different applications. Other data sources in the third-party apps as well could be anything that could have an impact to your day-to-day business, could be used for analytics, could be weather forecast, it could be stock market prices, it could be anything like that that has any implication that could be embedded into your own business data that can be presented. The last piece on the right here, we see the Power Platform. So the Power Platform gives you the ability to use your own internal configuration of business process and optimize your business process by utilizing these tools to give you the ability to build, let's say, low-code apps, to build any portals, to optimize your data processes and approval processes as well. And then you have your embedded intelligence, where you can show, based on all that, you can build your analytics and present that in the Power BI reporting. And then the last bits on the bottom here is that it's all tied together from a security standpoint and a data management standpoint through the Active Directory and Dataverse. Jeff, if you jump to the next one. If you look at the unified business process support here that we're showing you here, it's a very busy slide, we understand that, but when we look at the business applications like the finance and operations, the field service, the marketing, the sales and everything, it gives you you know, the different business area, business processes that these different tools actually play together or can cover, but also how they can play together. So based on this ecosystem, all of these different activities have an interrelationship that can be run. So for example, you can run your sales or customer service in the customer engagement, and you can push that data, you can integrate that data into the finance and supply, the ERP system or the financial system, the Dynamics 365 for financials, to cover all that, to finalize any sales transactions and so on. All of that is embedded into the ecosystem as well. If you go to the next slide.
So Jens, this is Jeff. So basically we've got a potential CRM system and an ERP system. So what you're saying is that the data from those systems can be unified and brought together into one data model. Is that correct? That can be used for Power BI purposes and analytics?
That's correct. So if you go back one slide real quick, let's just touch on that for a second here. If you want to go back one slide here. So if you look down below, you have also something I didn't mention that much, but we have the Dataverse, where you can come and have the data built on a common, you know, it's kind of the table structure data, and then you have your common data model, if you see down bottom right corner, which is actually a model that allows you to have the same table structure, the similar table structure utilized across the board. Now, we're talking about a lot about the Microsoft ecosystem and everything. It's very important to say that we see more and more with the Azure Data Lake and the data warehousing and how we can react to that type of data, that we also talk about other data sources. You know, I talked about weather forecasting and everything like that, but also other business applications, other applications you might have that is not a Microsoft, you know, whether you have an SAP system or if you have, let's say, a Viva quality system. to interact with that data as well, to make sure that you have a uniform data model going forward as well. Can you, yeah, so go ahead and if you jump to the next slide here. Yeah, so so just talk a little bit about the digital feedback loop that we use as well from Microsoft. Is you know, it's when it all comes down to make sure you can make the decisions. There's like 4 pillars of optimization or transformation that you can look for from a business. You have your engaged customers, you optimize operations, empower your employees, and transform products. But it all comes back to the data. So by getting the data from these different areas, you have the ability by capturing that digital data from all the different areas, you have the ability to create that visibility, but also to make some more decisions. You know, you get the connections. You talk back to what I said earlier, like the data lake and the common data service and these types. Now you have the ability to connect all the data from these different systems, and for you to be able to make wise decisions. So if you click another one here, you know, all this data can then be pushed out to improve these outcomes, you know, for engaged customers. You know, by getting the data for customers, you can help, you know, utilize the data to improve the customer experience from yours and generate more revenue. You can use the data to optimize your operations internally. You know, like some of those tools where you can build your own for you know, your own business products to optimize those. You can use those and that data and push that into and give your employees more decision making, more empowerment, so they can, you know, have a say in their day-to-day life and how they can optimize the process as well. And then obviously also you can use that data to use that data from everywhere else, like optimize operations, engage customer, to gain insight on how we want to transform your products to make sure that you get better at you get better at filling the needs from the customer side as well. Yeah, if you go ahead and the next
Great.
one. Right.
Thanks, Jens.
Sure.
I'm going to go ahead and give you a high-level overview of D365 Finance and the supply chain apps. So this slide gives us a good overview of some of the capabilities of the finance app within Dynamics 365. Everything starts with our general ledger, very, very important within the system. We are a multi-company, multi-currency application. We do a very good job with tracking all types of detail within the general ledger, and we do that by leveraging what we call financial dimensions. So all of the different areas that you want to track within your organization, whether that be a business unit, a department, a location, a profit center, a cost center, or even a project for that matter, we can create financial dimensions and be able to track the data associated with those various dimensions. And then once we have that data, we can then leverage our analytics and reporting capabilities to provide detailed reports on how those various business units and entities are performing. We also do a very nice job with allocations and reversing entries. And of course, we can, since we are a multi-company, we can do multi-company consolidations and as well as eliminations. Our accounts receivable module supports invoicing. We can run agings out of the system. We have a very nice collections workbench. So if your life sciences industry, you are in a stage of billing or medical device or billing for those products, we do a really good job in terms of creating invoices, statements, doing collections within the application and cash receipts. Of course, we have accounts payable, allows us to enter our invoices and match them against our purchase orders, generate AP aging reports out of the application, support positive pay files that we could send over to the bank. A few other modules that are included in our finance solution are bank management for tracking all of our bank transactions, reconciliations, positive pay, as I mentioned. We have a really nice budgeting module that allows us to be able to generate various types of budgets and be able to generate forecasts and what-if scenarios. So if we are planning out what the future year or multiple years looks like, the tool gives us the ability to create different modeling scenarios so we can see what the forecast would look like based on those scenarios. We have a good fixed asset module as well that allows us to create and track fixed assets. Fixed assets can be created from the AP module and the purchase order module. So if I buy a fixed asset, I could actually create the asset directly from the PO or AP modules. We track depreciation, we can track book, and we can also track a tax layer as well. And finally is our financial reporting and analytics layer. We have a really nice financial reporting tool that allows us to do, basically allows you to create any type of financial statement that you would like. And we also leverage the analytical capabilities of Power BI from Microsoft, and we'll see some of that capabilities here shortly. And all of these different applications and modules, of course, we have, security across the board. We have default security rules that are included in the application. You could certainly create your own security rules. We can secure the actual module, the menu, the form, and we can even go down to the field level if we need to. And from a compliance standpoint, we have full audit trails throughout the application, and Arbella has developed some additional IP that enhances the security capabilities within the application, as well as workflow and audit trails. So just to give you an idea of what the interface looks like, this is just a screenshot of the Dynamics 365 Finance homepage. And here we can see, this is what you would see when you originally log into the application. So you can see what you see here, all these different little rectangles. These are what we call workspaces. And what a workspace is within D365, it's basically a collection of all the different types of important tasks and lists and links to important functions within the application for each workspace. So if I went to the budget planning workspace, it would show me all of the tasks that are important for creating a budget, monitoring a budget, etc. So these workspaces make it very, very easy to navigate and work within the application. We do a really great job of exporting data out to Excel, very simple to use, very easy application, HTML5, so we work in pretty much all of the browsers, very simple application to work with. I wanted to show you an example of some financial statements here, and this income statement, and these statements are obviously critical when an organization is seeking to become acquired or looking to acquire another entity. And our financial reports provide the data necessary for a thorough review of your finances. And as we've mentioned previously, we do support multiple entities. So in this consolidated income statement, each column represents a different entity within the application. And we've also, we've backed out all of the intercompany transactions there, so you can see the eliminations and then our consolidated total. So it's very easy to come in and analyze a particular company that might be part of a divestiture. So if you want to look at and analyze different entities, you can. And obviously these statements are important for the different organizations that may be looking to acquire you. So we've got really good financials here that can help you from an M&A perspective. And this is, we can take that financial analysis a little bit further here by incorporating business analytics into the solution. And I mentioned Power BI. Arbella has enhanced the data analytics capability by providing some additional business insights through a solution that we have called Arbella Data Insights. And this is an example of a dashboard that comes within our solution here. And this would enable a CFO to review high-level financial data and activity and be able to review the data on a trend basis and compare financial data over different periods to help them make the decisions that need to be made. So rather than looking at details of financial reports, these dashboards make it really easy and bringing the important data to the forefront, enabling CFOs and controllers and CEOs, giving them the ability to make better decisions faster. And building on that analytic framework, this is just another example of a dashboard that contains some key performance indicators where we can look at certain indicators like our total revenue or total expenses, and we can compare them against the goal. And very easily, if we're in the green, that means we're good. If we're in the red, that's not good. So very quickly, I can get an idea of where we're at and what the business looks like. Here's an additional dashboard here, and this is a really good one because it gives you the ability to interact with the data by creating different what I call slicers here within the dashboard. A CFO, CEO, executive can come in and analyze this information. They can look at it by currency if they wanted to. What does it look like in euros or US dollar? They can pick a particular year. So if we wanted to analyze 2012 data or 2013 data, or maybe a particular quarter. So when I select these options, the system will dynamically update immediately and show me all the information that's critical. So if I need to look at particular business units that we have within the organization or products for that matter, I can simply come in here and just select the business unit. So if I came in and selected that, the whole entire dashboard would change and reflect data just for that particular business unit. So all of the different functions that you see here, KPIs, etc., would be updated just for that business unit. So giving organizations this type of functionality really makes it easy for them to get the data. And Jens talked about this before, where we have all these different points of data that can be coming from different systems and from different areas within the organization. We can get it in one place and leverage these tools to be able to make sense of that data and help us make better decisions. Talk a little bit about the Dynamics 365 supply chain app. We have some really good capabilities within this application here in terms of, approved vendor setup and being able to generate purchase requisitions and requests for quotations and then converting those over into purchase orders. We support trade agreements with vendors. You can have blanket POs. You can control the system and can configure the system if you want to over or under deliver. We have a quality component as well. So as items are coming in, they can go through various quality testing. Min-max based purchases, we can accommodate freight. So as items are coming in, we have freight that we need to allocate to the cost of those items. Managing vendor lead times, spending limit approvals, and then again, on top of that, reporting and analytics. So we have a very complete supply chain solution that all ties into the D365 Finance app. And to give you an example of one of the dashboards that we leverage within D365, this is another one that's included with the Arbella Data Insights module or application that we have. This is a really cool purchase order insights app because this gives me the ability for someone that doesn't know how to use D365, someone can come into this particular dashboard and make sense of this data very quickly. So I can come in and select these different filters or slicers. Do I want to look at recs or change orders? And do I want to look at open or invoice status or receive status? And here I can see by department how many POs, what we have on order, what do we have left that remains to be open, what's been invoiced, what is the uninvoiced amount that we potentially may have to accrue at month end, and then giving you the detail here at the bottom of the screen. So this is a lot of good information that we can make available to users, and they don't even really know they don't have to know how to use D365. They can simply just manage and look at this data from an analytical perspective and be able to get the information that they need. And building on that, We also we have what we call vendor report cards. So if we want to analyze our vendor performance and see how they have performed over a period of time, we can track, you know, how many you know, POs or items did we receive early? What was the percentage on time? What was the percentage that was late? So we can monitor our vendors and make better decisions around whether or not we need to make vendor changes in terms of who we order products from. So some good information from that perspective. Also built into the finance app within D365 is our projects module. And our projects module is very important and very widely used by the life sciences industry. So if you're doing any type of R&D investments, we can set up projects to accommodate that. So if you're doing capital improvements, R&D, we can create projects that have, you know, they could be an investment, a fixed price, a time and material contract. We support work breakdown structures and different project cost categories, and the system integrates with all of the other D365 applications. So if I have a purchase order that I need to tie to a project, I can do that. I can post invoices to projects, and labor to projects. So we do a really good job if you're in the initial stages of a R&D project and you want to track all costs associated with developing a particular product or drug. Our projects module does a really, really good job of that. And of course, building on that is the ability to analyze those costs associated with those projects. And our Power BI capability enables us to do that. So here I can look at actuals versus budget and be able to see how we're performing against that budget, and see the cost by different types, whether they're related to labor or material, etc. So we do a really good job from the project standpoint. And also, another very important aspect when a business is looking to acquire you, they want to make sure that the solution is secure and provides detailed auditing capabilities. And we certainly do that here within the base security capabilities within Dynamics 365. But we have enhanced those security capabilities even more with a tool that we call our Audit and Security Manager. So what the tool allows us to do, it enhances some of the standard security functionality that's built into Dynamics 365 with more drill down capabilities. We have a Power BI integration workspace that allows you to monitor the auditing capabilities within the software. We also have a very good separation of duties functionality where we have 20 predefined templates that we can set up within the system, and the system can track whether or not we may have potential issues of, for example, someone being able to enter a vendor and also being able to enter an invoice and be able to write a check. The system will monitor those different types of rules and flag those and point out the discrepancies where you might not want to have somebody with all of those different permissions. So we do a really good job with that. And just wanted to show you what that workspace looks like. This is just a Power BI report that that looks through the system and kind of gives us an idea of various different types of roles that might be at high risk. And we can look at policies that may have been violated. And here we can see, for example, separation of duty policies where we may have some issues. So it makes it really easy to analyze security and be able to drill down into those areas. All right, so that's a pretty high level look at a summary of D365 finance and supply chain.
Thanks, Jeff. That was really informative. So we're going to chat briefly about Arbella Health for Life Sciences. And so most of our life sciences customers fall on, you need to go to the next slide, Jeff, fall on the spectrum. So a lot start in what we call research and development. They move into preclinical, and then they move into their phase trials all the way to commercialization. D365 would support you throughout that. We kind of have here where we look at when people start at least their GXP FDA validation, which is sometime between preclinical and phase 1, and then they're typically fully validated by the time we get to commercial. SOX compliance can go across the whole duration of it. This is just a sampling of the modules that we typically see in R&D companies versus commercialization. We also have production management, which we didn't get into, so we can do your full bill of materials, formulas. It does mixed mode manufacturing. We touched on security. What we normally see is when you're in R&D, you're a little bit lighter in security. As you move through, we're starting to beef up your security profiles, which Jeff addressed. And then we're going to show you some of our customers. So if you want to go to the next one, I'll turn it over to Jens, and he can walk you through some of these.
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. So a couple of within the life science and the health that we've been working on is Atara Bio. It's a pre-commercialized life science company where we've been engaged for a few years now, and we've been helping them, unifying some of the process and optimize the process as we talked about, where we have that first more manual process and optimizing those into more of an automatic process as well. We've included that through the financial ERP systems, updated their business processes, the supply chain, as well as more of the data analytics side, where we've been uniforming some of the data into the data lakes and then basically reducing a lot of the manual paper trails and utilizing these tools for that. And lastly, also we've been using the Power BI and Power Apps to actually empower the employees, if you will, to create small applications that gives the employees the ability to take actions on their own without having to go through very rigorous manual processes as well. You can go to the next one. Another one is within more of the medical devices. Where Breck is a company that we've been engaged with. We've helped getting the sales team, mostly the sales team on the cloud, and become more of the get them more virtual and give them the ability to collect the data from the customer side and use that in the analytics space as well. So just a couple of different areas where we've gone through this life cycle and how do we look at the short-term needs, but also looking at the longer term and how we can help the company transform to better meet the objectives and goals of the company itself.
Great, thanks, Jens. So what we typically see for pain points in our life sciences customers and some of the challenges is managing R&D while still meeting regulatory requirements. You're getting to the point where you're starting to do some serial lot track and trace. We're having track raw materials. So D365 allows for all of that. In addition, supply chain optimization, which also includes full track and trace, that traceability of your lot and serial numbers. Also talking a little bit about MRP, we've touched on it, that you're starting to forecast, you're starting to plan what your raw materials are. We're also looking at streamlining manufacturing processes to reduce cost and increase visibility. We see a lot of integrations to MES systems at this point. And when you think about we have yield shortages reports, that's the biggest cost driver normally in pharma. We also really need to stay current and solve regulatory compliance challenges. So that's about getting your system validated and keeping it validated. Microsoft has a lot of tools, whether it's in Azure and D365, to where we can do regression testing. There's product master and security controls. We need that full traceability for validation. And whether you're going for SOX or you're going for GXP, that security profile is the biggest thing, is make sure we have great separations of duties. We can only buy off of our approved vendors. And then the biggest thing that we see as challenges, and this is true for all industries, is lack of real-time reporting. We touched on all those disparate systems, the inability that they're siloed, they're not integrated, and it goes back to Jens's point about data lakes and such. And if you want to go to the next slide, Jeff. Great. And so what Arbella's done is we've come at it with a best of breed approach. There are some modules in D365. So when we think about The ones that are in the gold yellow color, those are the ones that we've enhanced the existing feature functionality. Where you see the lighter blue, what that is that you could use D365 natively for like your barcoding or scanning capabilities. But when we think about packaging, a label for an FDA customer is just as important as the actual products that are inside of it. So sometimes people want to use a disparate or an outside barcoding solution. We can integrate to that. We also have quality or quarantine, which Jeff talked about. We have non-conformance and CAPA. And if you want to build the slide a little bit, Jeff, what we see is we can either stand up D365 or we can integrate to those. We also support third-party integrations, so laboratory information systems, quality barcoding, labeling, and then I know Jens talked on this, but the IoT, connected manufacturing in D365, that's something that's becoming more and more important. And then across all of this, we do advanced data analytics. If you want to go to the next one, Jeff. So if you're talking about validation, we talked about Arbella Health or D365, the ERP solution. This is what we typically see from an integration standpoint. The FDA does allow for us to validate across all of these solutions, whether you're using a LIMS system, an outside labeling software, or scanning software. And how we approach that, and if you go to the next slide, Jeff, is we follow the typical validation steps. So when we think about it, Arbella Hybrid or Arbella Health is the Microsoft Dynamics 365, which is sitting at the top. We go on to customizing and developing the interfaces. We have to make sure that all of those are working. So we go through a validation step through those. Microsoft D365 is a cloud-based solution. We do have a way of doing an installation qualification or an IQ. We also do the OQ, PQs, and then we set it up to where we can maintain the validation through using the RSAT regression testing tools that Microsoft has enabled. We document all of this in Microsoft DevOps, so we can look at what you validated historically with your standard operating procedures and carry those forward. So if there is a change to the software, we know what we need to go back and retest to maintain your validation status. So the next slide, Jeff. And this is back to Jens.
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of last slides here, just to show some of the different areas where we have, built out additional capabilities around that. So Jeff was mentioning a little bit about the Arbella Data Insights, which is a pre-configured data warehouse that is mainly focused on the D365 customer engagement and finance supply chain. It's very strong. The schema is already built out, but you also have the ability to build out additional data sources as well. For example, referring to Atara, we are using the Arbella Data Insights to get data from multiple data sources as well to bring out the transparency to get visibility to all the data. It's also will be working within the data lake that is within the data lake as well. So a very, very strong tool as well. Jeff, go ahead to the next one. A couple of other ones is the ASM, the Audit and Security Manager. Jeff already talked about. Again, been utilized with a lot of customers to ease the audit control, to optimize the audit control and compliancy aspects of it, and seeing gain very much benefits of that. And then master data centralization, also to make sure if you have multiple companies or entities, you have the ability to standardize and share the best practices across the different organizations. And the last one is more back to the empower your employees. A lot of approvals and there's a lot of requirements around approvals, financial approvals, purchase approvals. We build a Power App, as we call it, for the Arbella Workflow Manager, Arbella Workflow Manager based on a Power App that gives the optimize the way of improve the timing on getting approvals from different areas of business process within Dynamics for 365 for finance and operations, or finance and supply chain as well.
Great, thanks, Jens. I don't know if we got any questions in.
So we do have a few questions coming in right now. Once again, if you have any questions, please submit them in the windows below. Let's see here. Okay, so the first question, my company is heavy in R&D and the majority of our cost on a project is labor. Can we track both supplies and labor against a project?
I'll go ahead and take that. This is Jeff. Yeah, you certainly absolutely can with the project module. You can record labor directly into the actual project, or you can set up timesheets where employees can track their time to a timesheet, and that can be done through a mobile device. And of course, supplies can be recorded into the system as well. If you're our expense module, so if employees are filling out expense reports, any expense can be charged to a project, as well as any items that are purchased through accounts payable can be charged to a project as well.
Great. I hope that answers your questions. The second question is, let's see here. What is a dataverse?
I can take that. So the Dataverse is, it's a fairly not the application itself or the functionality itself, but the name itself is fairly new. It's used to be called Common Data Services. It's an approach from Microsoft if you look at the ecosystem again, it's a unified structure, table structure to allow to have a data structure and data tables to store the data across multiple data sources as well, and from a lot of these areas, specifically the Microsoft application have a direct connection to it. You can push and pull data out there and share the data in the same format across the organization as well.
Great. So the third question is, if I divest of only one of my entities, is it easy to remove it from my system and financial statements?
Yeah, this is Jeff. I can take that. Yeah, you certainly can. You do have the ability, obviously, removing it from an organizational hierarchy, which would remove it, for example, from a financial statement. But you do have the ability with tools in the software to basically offload those transactions and delete that entity. Yes.
Okay, great. So the last question we have is, how long does a FDA validation of D365 take?
So this is Jennifer. I can take that one. It really depends on the complexity of your processes and also the availability of your staff. What we normally do, it typically takes between 60 to 90 days from when we start writing your functional requirements document until you're ready for, actually your FDA audit, which means we start executing your test scripts with someone watching it. But like I said, it really varies depending on your company and your complexity.